do this every day, take for granted, was unprecedented. To consider an attack on one, an attack on anyone would, an attack on anyone would be an attack on all of them. And because of that sacred commitment, backed by millions of soldiers, sailors, aviators willing to risk their lives for our collective defense, NATO to study, to work, to push the boundaries of innovation, to expand rights and opportunity. And after all, that really is the purpose of the alliance. It's not an end in itself. It's a means by which, in creating, sustaining, preserving security for all of us, we can all get on with our lives and hopefully reach our full potential. Really to engage in what President Truman called the business of achieving a fuller and happier life for all of our citizens. That really is what NATO is about. Yet, as so many of us have been talking about at NATO headquarters, at these summits, and indeed for the last years, we face a multiplicity of new threats, well known to everyone in this room. Some of these threats would have been familiar to NATO's architects, who knew very well what happens when strongmen seek to redraw borders by force. Others, NATO's founding generation, never possibly could have imagined cyber attacks, AI-fueled disinformation, a climate in crisis. So our alliance is doing what it has done at every step, anticipating these emerging challenges, adapting to meet the moment, ensuring that NATO remains, as Italian Foreign Minister Carlo Forza said 75 years ago in what is typically a beautiful Italian phrase, NATO is a continuous creation. That's what this alliance is. That's what it must remain. Just over the last 3 years alone, all of us together, we've bolstered our eastern flank. We've invested in our defense industrial bases. We've dramatically increased burden sharing among allies. We've just added 2 incredibly capable allies, growing our alliance to 32 nations. And, Dimitro, our door remains resolutely open, and we look forward to that day as well. Now, truth be told, any of us who sit around the NATO table, whether it's as foreign ministers or today as leaders, with now 32 members, I'm sure that there's at least a moment, maybe about 3 hours into the NAC, when we think, 12 members wasn't so bad. But we are so powerfully reinforced by our newest partners, Finland and Sweden. This summit has made absolutely clear that as the people of Ukraine continue to sacrifice immeasurably to defend their territory and their right to choose their own path, NATO will do everything possible to ensure Ukraine's long-term success. And that does include the strong bridge that we built to membership. At the same time, partners from across the globe, many here with us tonight, are eager to deepen their relationships with NATO, recognizing that their security and the security of the transatlantic alliance are linked. All these years later, our alliance endures not out of, President Truman declared, we do not believe that remains our charge, our responsibility today. As we face down threats, old and new, let's continue to summon that courage. Let's continue to summon that vision. And, shoulder to shoulder, let's continue to write our own destiny for decades to come, and let's do it together. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful to have you here, so grateful to have all of you as friends and colleagues. Welcome again to the NATO Summit. And now, my friend, the Deputy Secretary General, Mircea, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you so much for having all of us in this wonderful place. I have to say that for once, I believe we are better off than our leaders. This is a better place even of the other location. Thank you so much for what you represent for us, Tony. And for the members of Congress, and especially U.S. Senate, I know that the Julie Smith hearings will go smoothly after this summit. Julie, we love you. We appreciate you. we are sacrificing you on the altar of the ultimate good here in the US. Listen, I'm so proud to be here with you today. I arrived in Washington when I was only 37 years of age, the youngest ambassador of my home country, Romania, to this wonderful, complicated city. And I made the mission of my life and my career to bring my country into NATO. So to everyone, Dmytro, our friends in Ukraine, all the friends that want to join this alliance, I'm the living proof that if you really are determined to fulfill your dreams, to share our values of freedom, of dignity, of rule of law and democracy, you belong to this family, and one day you will be part of this family. This is something I know will happen, and I want to thank you so much for everything you do for our alliance. Thank you so very much for that. There are so many other partners from all over the world. We have close to 40 partners from basically all continents. We are so proud of our partnerships. I know that sometimes we are not basically always in perfect sync when it comes to regional issues, when it comes to global affairs. There is something we share in common, and that's why we cherish our partnerships with you. That we all want a safe world, a peaceful world, a predictable world, a world with rules and not a world with a rule of jungle. So for that, on behalf of myself and our Secretary General and all of us, let's applaud our partners from all over the world. We cherish you and really bring this alliance much stronger. Thank you so much for being with us in Washington. Yesterday at the Mellon Auditorium, I was trying to put myself in the shoes and the minds of our founding leaders. And I want to thank again President Biden, Secretary Blinken, and our American friends for bringing us back to the place where this beautiful idea started. History of the world, not only for 5 years or 1 term or 2 terms, but for decades to come. So I believe that these days in Washington will be shaping the world for many, many decades to come. And the last point from my side. We need to keep the family of democracies together. We have to really find new strength, new energy, new smart ideas to make sure that will prevail in this very complicated time ahead. And I want to say one thing, as not this time as a NATO Deputy Secretary General, whatever I will do in my life in the future, but I think we have to do a much better job, Tony, and we discussed about this many times, to engage with our partners that are not at this dinner tonight. There are many other nations that share the same concerns like we do, like our citizens do. They just want a better life, peace, prosperity, and dignity in their lives. So my appeal to you is not only to be up to the level of ambition and vision of our founding members of this alliance, and I want this partnership that NATO has with you that we cherish and applaud. I ask you and us to do a much better job engaging the rest of the world. We need to really do a much better job in convincing the rest of the world that it's much better to live in democracy, in freedom, in dignity, in rule of law, and prosperity, and not to allow them to be lured by nations that are preaching basically for dictatorship and authoritarian regimes. I lived half of my life in communist Romania. And please, believe me, there's absolutely no joy in living in dictatorship and in darkness. So, my dear friends, dear Tony, this is a moment that will probably be shaping the world for many, many decades to come. In a way, it's a symbol and probably a sign from God that we are reassembling here where this beautiful journey of NATO started 75 years ago. And for our partners, again, our appreciation, our respect, sometimes our humbleness to the huge, rich experience you bring to us. And I know that one day, I hope, my kids and my grandkids, if my daughter and my son will enrich me with future generations of my family, I know that one day we'll be proud of what we achieved in Washington, this historic summit of our great alliance. Thank you all. We love you all. And thank you for the kind words for myself. The 5 years in NATO have been the highlight of my life. And I think I'm now a better human being. I'm a better, people believing in our values. And I have to say that I cherish every single moment that I had with you. And dear Tony, thank you so for the kind words. So God bless all of our dinner.